So we'll start with a few words about sponsor companies. Instigate is a group of companies which started in Armenia in 2004 as an educational center for students who graduated or are still studying in the universities and want to become engineer or work in IT industry. And we created a curriculum like a vocational training, and it was used to staff most of the companies that we created during these 12 years. It's about 7 companies, 7 plus, counting the dead ones. And more than 1,000 people passed through it. 99% of them work and 90% plus, more than 90% of employees of current companies are graduates of the training center. During these years, we also were teaching in universities of Armenia, and we're trying to improve the higher education. And eventually, we realized that it's not just high education, that the cause is not in the institutes, the cause is in the schools, and we started working with the schools. And that includes not only IT education, but also sports, also arts, and liberal arts educational program in general. One of the main problems which we solved during these 10 years is advertisement, more like a propaganda type of achievement, where we explained to the population of Armenia, including regions, that the IT profession is something that is exists in Armenia, and it allows their children to have decent life, because for parents this is one of the most important reasons why they send their children to universities. They want their children to be able to have job, unfortunately, because higher education from our point of view is a means to start the educational career, a scientific career, become a scientist and researcher, and your goal should be a Nobel Prize or at least become a PhD when you go to university, not to find a job, because for that there exists professional school like college. However, in Armenia, the colleges are under demand. The demand is not high because people use university for that purpose, to find a job, and by this they actually spoil university, because the university stops being a research university. It becomes more like a vocational training. So to solve this, we need to have systematic solution. And the system consists of several layers. One layer is advertisement and propaganda layer, to explain to good students and ambitious parents that IT profession is competitive profession. Second layer is for those children and parents who have chosen it, provide that education. So that is in the intermediate schools. We are installing the laboratories we are setting up meetings with professionals from the industry. We're setting up competitions and setting up laboratories where they can work on understand what is IT industry, and it's an abstract profession, so we cannot explain to a 12-year-old child what is programming. So we created robotic kits, 3D printers, CNC devices, which allow them to have more tangibly understand what is it. And that goes to intermediate schools, encourages them to choose this profession, empowers the teachers with the materials, content. And the third layer, which we are building now, is a professional education layer for those who don't go to university for a scientific career, but for job. For job, we offer them alternative path, which is called Real School. It's a professional educational career. And all of it together is going to, we believe, is going to systematically solve the educational problem in Armenia, offload university from those who go there for job, move them to professional colleges, and leave the university with students who want to do scientific career. And our next step will be then empowering universities. For now, We're still building the underlying layers. So Armath Laboratories Network has been implemented in 220 plus schools by now. It has been entirely funded by the IT industry companies who united across this, around this idea. They created a consolidating project which consolidates the educational system of Armenia, IT industry, and schools and universities around the background education improvement idea. So we are not building one school in Yerevan which gives good education. We build a network of schools across the country, starting from regions, where we install all this equipment, provide the materials to teachers, make it very accessible so that the village teacher can do it without serious training, without need to bring them in Yerevan. We brought in the first batch of about 100 teachers in 2013. Then they became regional heads, regional leaders, and they started training in their regions. Now we don't anymore bring these hundreds of teachers into Yerevan. And we created a lot of educational content, put it on YouTube, and teachers can use that content either for themselves or turn it on and have children watch it. There are 5,000 kids attending these classes in 220 plus regional schools, villages, and cities. Every year we organize competitions. There is programming content, open game content, digicode, and the robotics content, which includes minesweeping robots and UAVs. This year, first time we will, during Digitech in Yerevan in September 29 to October 23, we will also have 3D printing competition finals, first time, and we expect more of that to come, like CNC. And we already started building a network of educational content for biochemical laboratory. And the next contents for the robotics will be replaced by the contest to build a thermostat, to build a centrifuge, and other devices which will be used in the laboratories. And the winners of the contest for building centrifuge will create their startup, and we will buy the centrifuge from them instead of importing from China for our network of biochemical laboratories. That's what we did with 3D printers. The 3D printers are being manufactured by a startup in Goris, and all the schools are equipped by these 3D printers. We do not import them. And the CNC devices are currently made by a professional company in Yerevan. We buy from them, but they have made a new version and they are donating it to school systems. So whoever from the young kids will want to create their startup and take those schematics of the CNC device and produce their own, we will start buying from them. Those are all sponsored organizations, ours as well. So we are not in educational business. Our content is not for sales. Although this year we participated in the exhibition in Ethiopia, and we have proposals from Ethiopian businesses in education to bring in this robotic laboratory there and create a paid, like a TUMO in Armenia, a center of excellence. And their Ministry of Education officials have visited Armenia for understanding all of this, and now we're building a roadmap. Hopefully, before the end of this year, at least 2 laboratories will be opened in Addis Ababa, which will be unfortunately commercial ones, not like in Armenia for regions, but more like elite in Addis Ababa. But this is beginning. After this showcase works and is proven, then hopefully their NGO and funding organizations will also fund it for not just commercial proprietary schools, but also public school sector. Now, all of this, which has been created by Instigate Training Center Foundation and NAIRI Consortium, several organizations of Armenia who united to build this laboratory, all of this project is being downloaded into Real School, which is a professional educational school created in Yerevan, and we want students to continue building this laboratory, including the bioinformatics, biotechnical laboratory, and the children of Real Schools, while they do their graduate projects, their yearly projects, they will enrich this laboratory by new content, by new devices, new experimental labs and projects for kids and competition material. I'd like to leave. I would like to mention that it is not just engineering that we teach. We consolidate art training, cultural programs. We invite Mr. Poghosyan, who is teaching classical Armenian dances and songs to children. They have their own program already in more than 200 schools. They teach classical Armenian dances and songs, and we collaborate with them. When we teach web programming to our children, they build websites for example, for listing and categorizing the dances and songs. Hayrik Muradyan's website was built by the Instigate Training Center students. In the future, similar projects will be done by real school students. And we do a lot of travel in Armenia because children need to know their country and know their country's problems, to devote their life to solving it, to be tied with it. Otherwise, with this profession, they can live anywhere in the planet. It doesn't matter where they live, and if they also do the job for outside only, there is nothing tying them with their country. They have to know their country, to understand its problems, to pick one to which they will devote next 5 years of their life, and through this they will bind themselves to their country, because the country, for an engineer, for a robotics expert, Armenia is competitive with Switzerland only by one thing, by its problems. So one has to fall in love with the problems of his country to stay there and work on it if he is a professional in this field. Otherwise, there's nothing really binding him, except his nationality and his will to help his own home, and through this participate in development of the civilization. That's overall a gist of it. I know we have limited time. I'd like to hear if there's any question. These are photos from visits to Agna, the city on the east of Stepanakert, where we went. We lived for 5 days there in tents, and kids collected fruits, brought them to Yerevan and sold it. This is part of the education. You need to sell something in the farmer's market to become a professional.
So I'm going to ask a question. Yeah, round of applause for Vahagn, because
Thank you.
it's really his vision and his team's vision. One quick question for the kids. How does the outreach happen? Does it happen at the school level? Do you go to the homes and show presentations? And how do you get them motivated to join your programs?
So there are several. First of all, we do it to press. Karen Vartanyan has a radio program. We use Digitech Expo mainly for that. IT companies in our consortium, they don't go to Digitech to bring customers. They go to Digitech to encourage the parents to choose this profession for their children and to encourage children. We bring in kids from schools into Digitech Expo. We show that Armenia has IT industry. So whatever they see and read on Facebook is not just it doesn't mean that we live in a desert. There is a lot of production. Unfortunately, we produce stuff for enemies, not for ourselves. Unfortunately, it's all external projects that we do. But now it is changing. There are more and more internal projects happening. So that's another way how people learn that engineering in Armenia exists and it is possible, and Armenians are good engineers. So we also travel across the country to choose a school where we install the next laboratory. We do fundraising. We ourselves buy the hardware, install it. Government only pays salaries for the teachers. The rest is all done by our organizations. And we travel in the villages and schools and choose ones where we see a motivation in the director of schools and in the teachers of the IT profession.